Thank you, Professor Minohara. And let me begin by thanking Japan Foundation for supporting the conference today. I must say that I'm a little surprised because this is a session on energy and economics. So my topic, I'm not sure how it fits here, but I'll keep it short. I will be talking about the prospects of India-Japan cooperation in the Indo-Pacific theater. Let me begin by saying that geopolitics in Indo-Pacific is increasingly shaping the strategic discourse in maritime democracies like India and Japan. And drawing from our shared universal values and interests in the region, we have designed a joint Vision 2025, which has called for action-oriented partnership, which with the objective of upholding a very stable and free, open, rule-based Indo-Pacific order. Now, looking at Japanese foreign policy, I think in TCAT 2016, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has articulated the new foreign policy approach that Japan is currently pursuing, which is free and open Indo-Pacific strategy, which basically encompasses two continents, that is Asia and Africa, the two growth poles in Asia and Africa, and also the two oceans. Now, since China is pursuing its strategic ambition with grand plans like BRI, Japan is also mobilizing its resources in terms of investing more in connectivity and infrastructure projects, trying to beef up trade and investments in Africa and Asia, different parts of Asia. And since India is situated at the heart of Indo-Pacific, as we saw in the discussion in the morning, Japan is investing heavily in reinforcing its strategic partnership with India. The convergence of Japan's free and open Indo-Pacific strategy with our own ACT-IS strategy, it provides an opportunity to cooperate both bilaterally and also regionally on various issues, various themes which I will be discussing a little later. So, what are the major areas where India and Japan can pursue cooperation in advancing our shared interests and opportunities in the Indo-Pacific? Basically, I will be talking about three themes. First is connectivity and infrastructure. Second is securing the maritime the global commons. And third is pursuing shared interests in various regional and multilateral forums that we are in together. Moving on to the first part, which is connectivity and infrastructure. 2017 is quite a special year for our bilateral relationship because it marks the 10th anniversary of the much celebrated speech that Prime Minister Shinzo Abe delivered in our parliament, which is the Conference of the Two Oceans. And 10 years down the line, it has, India has emerged as a strategic anchor in that Indo-Pacific strategy. Having said that, it has also culminated into a special strategic partnership, and we have seen some concrete deliverables. Earlier in the morning, we have speakers have drawn our attention to the Asia-Africa Growth Corridor, which was launched last year, and one of our senior colleagues will be talking about it later in the day. But that is actually we can cite it as an example of translating the political will on both sides into tangible gains. Of course, we are in the conceptual stage of the projects, and we are still discussing and debating what are the viable projects that we can start the initiative with, because when you are pursuing, when two countries are pursuing projects in third countries, we have to be extremely sensitive about the reaction and getting it integrated into the local community and economy for long-term benefits. And so when Asia-Africa Growth Corridor was launched last year, the basic idea is to cultivate value chains and economic networks between Asia and Africa. And several sectors were identified. Of course, infrastructure and connectivity is the most talked about, but there are other pillars like institutional connectivity, capacity building, skill development, people-to-people contact. So probably we can think about pursuing capacity building as at the initial stages. We can think about capacity building and skill development in countries of common interest, maybe in Mozambique or Nigeria or Angola, so on, because we have energy interest in those countries. Both countries have. Beyond Asia-Africa growth corridor, I think Japan has also emerged as a natural partner in our development in Northeast. So, as Ambassador was saying in the morning, we have instituted a forum on India-Japan forum on Northeast cooperation in Northeast development. We have been beneficiary of Japanese ODA in Northeast for a while now, and they are helping us in upgrading various national highways, including 51 and 54. But I think earlier in the year, in July, if I'm not mistaken, the Cabinet Committee has approved upgradation of a small stretch of road between Imphal and Moreh. And it is supported by the ADB loans under SASEC projects, which is a larger part of supporting BBIN connectivity and infrastructure projects in the region. I'll not go into the details because Dr. Patnaik will be talking extensively on the South Asian issues. So that will help us also in pursuing our own connectivity with the Southeast Asia. Particularly, we have been struggling for a while to push through our trilateral highway projects. So with Japanese assistance, I think not only inside India, connecting the different industrial or manufacturing hubs of India, we are going beyond and trying to benefit, trying to develop the extreme corners, which are also strategically very important to us, like the Northeast, as I mentioned, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, so on and so forth. And also Bay of Bengal is one area where we need to pursue regional, we need to pursue joint projects. Probably we have to think it through seriously, what kind of projects that we can conceive in countries like Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. But I think that is something that really needs our attention, and that will be a good step forward, and we can imitate that kind of model also in Southeast Asia. I think it was mentioned in the morning. So we need to try to not only conceptualize projects, joint projects in third countries, involving the stakeholders in the host countries itself, because I think that is vitally important to gain acceptance in the host country for long-term benefits. So that is as part as the first point on connectivity and infrastructure is concerned. Secondly, I would like to draw your attention to securing maritime commons or global commons. I think a lot was discussed in the first session, so I'll not go too much into details. But as it was pointed out, the developments in the South China Sea, that has provoked quite a rethinking about the strategic significance of SLOCs, not only in India and Japan, among the entire region and all the stakeholders. So drawing from that, India and Japan has been not only bilaterally but also in multilateral forums. We have been coordinating our position and arguing the value of international law, particularly UNCLOS, and the significance of freedom of navigation and overflight and unimpeded commerce in international waters. So not only, as I said, not only in our joint statement, but also if we look at the India-US-Japan ministerial dialogue that we have, I think we have articulated it there, and also in various regional forums we have been pursuing that, because the economic vitality of Indo-Pacific cannot be understated for countries, resource-deficient countries like India and Japan. And I was reading one report called the Higuchi Report, which talks about the criticality of sea lanes for island nations like Japan in terms of its survivability and, the very prosperity. It's the artery of the Japanese economy. And I think it's also true for countries like India. So that is one area where we have been coordinating our positions in regional forums. Beyond that, I think Malabar, it was also mentioned in the morning, that is quite Japan's incorporation as a permanent member in the Malabar exercises will definitely advance maritime security issues, cooperation in the Indo-Pacific. I think way back in 1999, that time, ironically, we were under sanctions from the Japanese side. But despite that, there was certain cooperation during the particular piracy incident, Alondra Rainbow 1999, where India helped extended assistance to the Japanese side in dealing with this particular piracy case. So not only international rule-based order, but also there are several other challenges to this in safeguarding the SLOCs, like piracy, maritime terrorism, disaster management, where we can explore cooperation between our countries, along with like-minded partners, of course. Beyond that, I think we also have bilateral maritime security dialogue between the two countries, where we discuss several issues of common concern. We are also trying to institutionalize a strategic dialogue between a maritime strategic dialogue between the two defense ministries. So that is something which is under process. As far as maritime securing maritime global commons are concerned, India and Japan, as of now, has taken a diplomatic route and intensifying its position on certain issues, particularly South China Sea, in the joint statements, which was earlier not the case. Coming to the third theme of pursuing joint interest, shared interests in regional forums. I think there are several, as we are synergizing our capabilities, we are also stepping up our coordination in forums like East Asia Summit, ARF, ADMM+, and there are others also, areas like IORA, where there is ample scope for greater cooperation. East Asia Summit, I mean, we all are aware that Japan played a very instrumental role in incorporating, in getting India the membership into East Asia Summit. And I think in 2016, Japan and India, along with other member countries, have crafted or designed the Vientiane Declaration on infrastructure development in East Asia. So that is the idea is to basically conceive projects and then use financing from ADB and other regional banks. I think also AIIB, if I'm not mistaken, and also the credit line of from India, and pursue projects, conceive projects and pursue projects in various regional pockets. So beyond that, IORA, I think Japan is a dialogue partner, and India, as you all know, is one of the founding members. So there is also scope in that forum to work together on various issues. For example, disaster risk management may be one area. Then pursuing or facilitating blue economy can be another area where we can work together. Then we have been working together for a long time under the framework of G4 for pursuing joint projects in the Bay of Bengal, particularly maybe Myanmar, Sri Lanka. How and why we really need to think it through and get it done, but I think it's high time that we pursue these things. And also in Southeast Asia, I think previous session there was a mention of Vietnam. We have been in IDSA, we have been in dialogue with our Japanese partners for years now, and we have officially recommended designing trilateral frameworks involving maybe the think tanks, including Vietnam, was one of the areas. So that is there. And I'll just wrap up by saying that while we try to secure very stable Indo-Pacific, we need to, both India and Japan need to work, individually, bilaterally, and regionally in order to guarantee the rule-based order in this Indo-Pacific theater. Thank you.